Welcome to the Fantasy Fling DFS channel.
What is up, guys? This is your boy Fantasy Fling with another UFL week. First look, we're doing week 6, and it's been a crazy, unpredictable year, but that is spring football, and of course, we are back for more punishment. You either bink or you pretty much get your butt handed to you, and that's what happened to me last week. And we're gonna continue to look at the matchups, watch the games, follow the stats, and build our lineups accordingly so that we can win one of these. You win one of these, you make your season. Won several last year, had a great year, but we're trying to not be in 5th place, not be in 10th place, not be in 100th place. We're trying to be in 1st place. So we're going to go ahead and hop right into the Vegas lines. So what I got here, we got, really just some one high total and then, some middling games. And I was a little surprised that we didn't have the Birmingham and Memphis game as a higher total. Everything that I've looked at, Memphis, their defense, it's not spectacular. And, they're giving up 40, they're giving up 24 points a game. This is a 43-point total. Birmingham is scoring 26 points per game. So I did expect this to be a little higher, but we got Birmingham as big favorites, 11-point favorites with a 43-point total. I really expect them to kind of smack Memphis around a little bit in this game. Memphis, they came on in the second half last week, but their defense, I think, is going to give all sorts of problems for Memphis, the Birmingham Stallions defense. And Adrian Martinez, if he gets a start again here, he has scored 31 DK points in back-to-back games. They're big favorites. We got to love the running backs. Maybe we'll get Ricky Person Jr. Alone in the backfield again. Really, he'll have a little bit of Roundtree in there, but this is the kind of game you really want to target. Big favorites, and I definitely think this one could hit the over. So the game of the week for me, we got St. Louis Battlehawks, 48-point total. They are 12.5-point favorites going against Houston. This game just sets up in a lot of ways for Seattle to really throttle Houston, much like they did DC last week. So St. Louis, they've scored 30 points average on the season, and they're going against a Houston team that's given up a lot of points. So that's why you have the high total here. Houston's given up 26 points per game. The problem with St. Louis has been, who do you stack, right? Who do you play? Because every week it changes. It's really hard to predict. I think there's a couple different ways you can attack this. You could go AJ McCarron onslaught stacks. So, AJ +3 would be one way that you would look at it. Maybe you just play the running backs. So, you got Sailors and a Gallman to a certain degree, or you just do AJ +1 because you don't know if that third receiver is going to be, the one that goes off that week, but you tack AJ plus Butler. You do some AJ plus Aitman. You do some AJ plus Pearson. A few different ways you can go at this game. Or you could just completely lock him in and hope that you hit that right combination. It has been difficult, though. But this is definitely one of the best game environments to target and one that you want pieces out of. So next we have Arlington and going against Michigan. This game is a 42-point total. Michigan really came to life last week. The running game, Wes Hills was getting it done. We like that. I think you could certainly go back to Wes Hills. I would play a combination of him and Colburn. Etling, there's not a whole lot there in the passing offense. We did see Marcus Sims drop a long touchdown, so bad week for him, but could have been a good week. And, Arlington is a team that you want to continue to target. They're terrible. They're 0-5. They're allowing 26 points per game. They're a terrible run defense. So, they're allowing an average of 125 yards a game. So I do think you want to play the Michigan side in this one in their offense, of course. And then the last one, we have the San Antonio Brahmas going against the DC Defenders. This is a 42.5-point total. I thought this one would be a little bit higher too. I'm actually really going to like San Antonio in this spot. There's 3 teams that I think you kind of want pieces from every week, maybe 4. A team playing against Arlington, the San Antonio Brahmas, the Birmingham Stallions, and the St. Louis Battlehawks. I think these are teams that you're going to want pieces of every week. We got San Antonio this week going against DC. DC has actually low-key been one of the worst teams this year, which has been surprising. Specifically, we knew they wouldn't be as good because they lost some pieces last year, and then Abram Smith tore his ACL in camp. But as far as defensively, it's been pretty shocking. They've now kind of tumbled to the bottom defense. They're allowing 27 points per game. And here they get an offense has been pretty good. It's averaged 22 points per game. We know they have a lot of playmakers. They have Lovitz. They have Morgan Hellison in the backfield, coming out of nowhere last week. Now they have, they have Kirkland. They have, Stevenson, Latimer, Justin Smith. It's really kind of a new guy every week. So they can certainly score. And they had a down week last week. So maybe this is the game where they bounce back. I don't know. We'll see how that goes. But I think, with the Vegas lines being done, let's go ahead and hop right into the quarterbacks. All right. So over here on DK, and right away we have the 3 top quarterbacks. We have AJ McCarron. I think there's going to be a couple for me that I'm really going to be targeting, and then I'm going to mix in one. Number 1, AJ McCarron. He's now up to 11,000. He is averaging 20 DK points per game. And the thing with AJ McCarron is there's the consistency, right? He's throwing a lot. He's completing a lot of passes. He's got over 1,000 passing yards. He's only one of 2 quarterbacks, him and Luis Perez. Got a 10-1 touchdown to interception ratio with AJ McCarron. And, he's averaging a lot of DK points per game. And that's something we certainly want to target. Just watching the games, and this is something that you won't necessarily see from the box score, but just watching the games, they move the ball up and down the field, and they've been really struggling in the red zone. A lot of it is play calling, and I do think at some point a 4 to 5 touchdown game is coming from AJ McCarron. And when it happens, he's going to be in the nuts. You're going to want to have him that week. We saw one last year where, he scored over, I think it was 45 DK points. He's going to have one of those games this season. Is it this week? I don't know. This certainly is a good spot that it could happen. So, he's a guy I think you want to get exposure to at 11,000. Now, again, who do you stack him with? We'll get to that a little later when we go into wide receivers. But I think you kind of want to mix it up to a few guys, and you definitely need to include the running backs. Those onslaught stacks. We've seen those onslaught stacks. We've seen a few of those hit this year, QB +3, and specifically running back has been in play every time. So the other quarterback that I'm really looking at is Adrian Martinez. Now, this is kind of deceiving because he's played all 5 games. So you'll see here, he's got points in all 5 games, but he's only started 2 games. That was week 3, 33 points, and week 5 against Houston, 29 points. So he's really averaging he's averaging 31 DK points per game. And, last week he had over 138 rushing yards. So he's really fast out there, and overall, he's just looked better than Matt Corral. So maybe Skip Holtz will come to his senses and just be like, okay, we've shown both of these guys. We've showcased them a little bit. It's time to just play the best guy in Adrian Martinez. That's clearly the best guy they have. He throws 2, so he's been pretty good there. In 2 starts, he's thrown 600 yards. He's, averaging 300 yards per game, 3 touchdowns, 1 interception. Not a lot there, but on the ground, 26 rushing attempts and 302 rushing yards in 2 games. Well, I guess it's been more than 2 games because he's added a little bit of running as well. But, nonetheless, a lot of rushing and, gotten in the end zone, averaged 31 DK points for those 2 games. The thing I like about Adrian Martinez, I think you don't need to stack him. So, one thing I kind of go back to, if we know St. Louis is going to smash, maybe you play Adrian Martinez, you play some naked Adrian Martinez lineups, because if he runs this much, you do not need to stack him. And then you kind of mix up some of the St. Louis guys. You add Butler, you had Pearson, you got Aitman, you got, Sailors, whoever it may be. I think I'm okay running Adrian Martinez lineups out there without his pass catchers. The other quarterback that I really like, it's going to be a short week for me on quarterbacks. There's just some obvious matchups. And, we got 2 guys that are just kind of clearly, 2-3 guys, I think, that just kind of clearly stand out above the others. We got Quentin Dormady here. Now, he's had 2 letdown weeks, and really last week was a letdown going against Arlington. I'm not expecting a lot of the field to be on him in this spot. He's 9,500. He's not cheap. He's underperformed 2 straight weeks. Had 3 interceptions last week. But, kind of as I just talked about, the matchup is really good. He's going against a DC team this week that has given up 27 points per game. They also have a 53 PFF score, and they're allowing 238 yards per game, which is the most in the league. So, we look at DC's defense here. They have a 62 PFF score, run defense 57, and coverage 57. Don't have the best pass rush. So I do think this is a potential little bounce back spot for Quentin Dormady, and he's certainly a guy that I want to mix in my stacks this week. I think he's going to come in a lot lower owned than he has the past couple weeks. He can get back on Kirkland. We can, some of the other pass catchers, I think, we can get in on these guys. So I think that will do it for quarterbacks. All right. So let's say we decided to play Adrian Martinez. So we'll just plug him in there, and then we'll go to running backs. Now, Wes Hills really came on last week, and it was great to see, because week 1 was, really the Wes Hills that we saw last year. 11 attempts, 85 yards. No tutties, though, and then it was just terrible for 3 straight weeks. Like, he just wasn't playable at this 8,400 salary. And last week we saw him come alive. So you got to feed Wes Hills. You got to, and Curtis Johnson in Houston, what is the matter with you, dude? Like, this dude is terrible. By the way, Mark Thompson went on Twitter and was like, we need to run the ball. Like, we can't be one-dimensional for no reason. Listen to the man. Run Mark Thompson, run Wes Hills. Good things will happen. 16 attempts, 82 yards. He had 3 tutties. Matt Colburn got involved too. He's going to be in play. We're going to get to him. But yeah, Wes Hills, you got to get him involved. He needs to be seeing over 15 carries a game, and good things will happen. 5.1 yards per carry last week. Really smashed 26 points. It really helped. Just 3 abysmal weeks kind of helped his overall points per game. Now, normally, I'd be looking to get off that. I'm not trying to chase that, recency bias. However, this is the best matchup of the week. We got Arlington, which I'll show you guys right here. My cheat sheet that I do. Not cheat sheet, just more so just keeping track of all the stats. Arlington is a team that is allowing 125 rushing yards per game. They're also allowing 26 points per game. So this is a game against Arlington that sets up really well for Wes Hills. I do expect him to be chalky. If I'm playing Wes Hills, it's probably going to be in a lineup that is very differentiated somewhere else, because I expect him to be very chalky. Maybe I play, Wes Hills with those Dormady lineups, because I expect him to be lower owned than McCarron and Adrian Martinez. So I think that's a pretty good matchup. That's definitely one that I'm looking to target. That said, before I forget about it, because we got to scroll down here a little bit, I like Colburn as well in this spot. Colburn, he's done really well when given the ball this year. He's got 3.7 yards, which is, not great, but in this league, it's actually pretty decent. And he's been very involved in the passing game. He's gotten a total of 13 targets, 9 receptions, 43 yards. And he's had about 10 DK points per game. He's a $6,500 running back. So he's involved. Last week, as we saw, he had 15 attempts, 68 yards. So he smashed as well. They really ran that crap out of the ball. They need to be doing that again this week, especially with Etling at the helm, who's not very good as a passer. And if they're running the ball and you got a $6,500 guy who's averaging 10 DK points per game, that is definitely something that I'm looking to target. Couple other matchups that I like this week. Now, we got San Antonio going against DC, kind of the same thing. I'm going to want to play a good amount. Now, I don't know that we're going to get McFarland this week. Lovett looked really good last week. We saw Morgan Ellison get involved as well. But when you look at this is another good matchup. San Antonio going against DC. DC is a 57 PFF score against the run, and they're really allowing 95 yards per game. So this sets up as a good matchup. Not as great as last week, but a good matchup. And we saw Lovett get really involved. 13 attempts, 95 yards, 2 touchdowns. He smashed. And we also saw Morgan Ellison get involved. So with this league, with the running backs, you never know what it's going to be with the musical chairs. So I want to get some Ellison exposure as I did last week. Only had 7 attempts, 84 yards. He looked fabulous. He was great last year, so he's a guy I want more exposure to again. He's only 5,300. I'm definitely going to have exposure to him as well. So I think that's a great matchup. And then there's a couple other matchups I'm looking to target and just backs that have been really good. Ricky Pearson. We got no Marable last week, and he smashed. 14 attempts, 25 yards, but he added more in the receiving game. Let's see, he had 2 touchdowns. Yeah, so he didn't have a ton of rushing yards last week, but again, the thing with Ricky Pearson is he gets in the end zone, and that's what it's really been. And Houston, actually, they have a pretty good rush defense, so I expect him to potentially have a better spot, be in a better spot, have a better week this week, going against – who are they going against again? Going against Memphis. So they are going against Memphis, and the biggest thing is they're 11-point favorites. And anytime you get a team as an 11-point favorite, you always want to play heavily favored teams because they're going to run the rock, creates more opportunities for a guy like Ricky Pearson Jr., who continues to get in the end zone. He's priced up a bit now. It's 14.3 DK points per game. Now, I'll say this. If Marable does play this week, I will have more – it'll probably be more evenly split. In fact, is Marable, what is he priced at? He's 8,500. So, yeah, that would kind of be a scenario where I would maybe match the field with both of these guys. I would not be over. I would like some of the better matchups. If Marable plays, you get 2 guys above 8,000 on the same team. Probably not going to be as much into that as I would if Marable is out. So the other matchup that I am looking to target would be St. Louis is 12.5-point favorites. Now, Sailors has continued to produce, guys. We got 16 points, 24, and 16 in his last 3 games. So this guy continues to run really well. These averages were really good. He's getting good volume, 12 attempts last week, 15 attempts a week before. He is getting receiving work, 5-5 the past 2 weeks. So he's a guy that I definitely want. I want him in AJ lineups. I want him outside of AJ lineups. And The 12.5-point favorites, this one could definitely get away quickly. And also St. Louis has been kind of banged up along the offensive line as far as pass protection goes. So I think they have been looking to keep AJ upright and kind of minimize that a bit by having, Gallman and Jacob Sailors run the ball. So let's see, run blocking. Yeah, they've been very good running the ball. And pass block's been decent, but a lot of that's been AJ just getting the ball out of his hands. Run blocking actually has not been very good. So I think a lot of that has been, the targets being the extension of the run game. But however, as big favorites this week against Houston, I think that you just got to – it's plus EV to play favored running backs. Now, another guy that got involved last week is Wayne Gallman. Now, he was inactive 2 weeks ago, or week 3, and then they bring him back. And week 4, he gets a touchdown. Week 5, he gets a touchdown. He was a little more involved, 10 carries. So 6,300, yeah, I would take some shots on him as well, because specifically in this St. Louis backfield, it's very hard to predict who's going to get the volume. We literally saw Wayne Gallman start the season, Mateo Durant get, a bunch of work and really break the slate and smash. And then Wayne Gallman was inactive, and then Mateo Durant went on IR. And when Mateo Durant was the number 1, then Jacob Sailors comes in and he smashes. Then Durant goes on IR. Now we get Gallman back. It's just been musical chairs. So I would get exposure to both Gallman and Sailors, but I definitely would have a lot more exposure to Sailors in this spot. So, and that's really, it with, just a first look, kind of where I'm at right now with the running backs. All right, so let's just say we plug in Lovett, and when there's value, and that's one thing I'll say. I typically in this league, I'm trying to play just one running back builds, but when there's value, like we saw last week, where a bunch of starters are hurt, and you now get Lovett at a discount, and you get Ricky Pearson at a discount, who was a lot cheaper than he is going to be this week. That's when you want to take a look to kind of play more than one running back builds. Yeah, you're going to play 2, even play 3. So, as we kind of finish up here at wide receiver, now at wide receiver, there's a couple of things that I'm looking at each and every week. I want guys who are getting a lot of volume. So consistent volume. Those are going to be guys that can play in every lineup, like a Jontre Kirkland. Now, the reason I could play him in every lineup is because I know they're getting a certain amount of floor, and it's really going to help, prevent that lineup from just being so boom or bust and just crashing the rest of the lineup. If Jontre Kirkland has a bad week, Kirkland can have a 10-point performance. But if you hit on one of the boom or bust guys, like, you can still have a good week, because this 5-6K guy went off and you still got 10 from Kirkland versus getting 2 from like a 9K player, for example. So Kirkland is a guy, however, who is now very expensive. He's 10.7, and he was chalk last week, so I faded that. I was like, I'm not playing a 10.5 guy who's chalk, because it's going to be hard for him to hit tournament winning value. And, it's an easy way to leverage the field if they're going to be chalk. But he's still a guy that is getting a lot of targets each and every week. So 9 targets, 8 targets, 14 targets, 9. So that's the kind of volume you typically want to target. I'm going to play him this week in Dormady stacks. I expect him to be less owned Dormady. And, I'll be more willing to eat that chalk this week in this matchup. And hopefully Kirkland, he's even higher than he was last week, so he won't come with that much salary. I will play some of him outside of Dormady lineups, but if he's chalk, I'm probably going to be under the field in this spot again, like I was last week. Now, another guy that I like, and, it was a tough first couple of weeks, but he rewarded us since then, the past 3 weeks, he's been fabulous. Hakeem Butler, dude's a beast. Now, 20 points, 14, 36. He's averaging 16 DK points on the season. Again, 9 targets, 8 targets. First 2 weeks were rough, but he has been more involved in the offense, and Aitman has not. So, in AJ McCarron lineups, I've said this before, I don't think Hakeem Butler and AJ McCarron and Aitman correlate very well together. So, if I'm doing AJ McCarron lineups, I'm probably not going to have Butler and Aitman together. I'm going to have those guys in different lineups. So if I'm doing AJ Aitman lineups, that is a way to leverage Hakeem Butler chalk, which I would expect this week. I would expect him to be chalk now after 3 straight weeks. I love Hakeem Butler, but I'm looking to differentiate those lineups a little bit. So I'm going to go some Aitman. I'm going to go back to Pearson, who let us down this past week. And I'm really not spreading it out too much besides those 3 guys. And then, there is the pass catcher. So I am willing to stack with Jacob Sailors and Wayne Gallman, and perfectly fine with doing some onslaught stacks this week because I think this is a matchup that definitely calls for it. But yes, I love Butler. Again, it's just going to be contingent on how chalky he's going to be. Now, Ja'Cory Pearson, he screwed us last week. There's no other way to say it. He only got 3 targets after 10 targets a week before. So I would expect, stud coming off a dud. I'm going back to him. He burned people last week. He was chalk last week. I don't think he's going to be nearly as chalky this week. Now, what's surprising is the salary went up. Now, I think what happened here was he was supposed to be 8,200 with Shepard in the lineup, and then Shepard got rolled out. So now they went ahead and elevated him. He's 9,200. I'm not going to lock him in, but whatever his ownership is, unless it's chalky, I expect to be over the field. I expect him to be lower owned than last week. And, 9,200 relative to his ceiling, I still think that's playable. So Shepard out. We'll see if he's back this week. Aitman. Now, like I said, Aitman is a guy, he's a boomer bust guy for me. So in non-Hakeem Butler lineups, I like me some Aitman. I'll play him. Of course, he's, let's see, the targets have been low, but he can smash as we saw week 1 and week 2. And, he's probably due for a little bit of positive regression there. So, other matchups that I was looking to target, obviously, were Birmingham versus. In fact, if we're going Martinez, let's kind of plug in Kane here. So, but like I said, I think you can run Kane naked. I don't think you have to play him, or you can run Martinez naked. You don't have to play him with a pass catcher. However, when he's been in there, he does like to target Kane. So Kane would be, one of my primary receiving options. Week 3, he got 8 targets when Martinez started. Last week, he got 6. So, the yards weren't there, but I think we could probably go back to him. He would be the guy I'd want to target. And, Birmingham, this is a solid matchup against Memphis. Heavy favorites. And Deion Kane is a guy that obviously we know what his upside is. So 24 points, 24 DK points in week 3 when Kane got his first start. I would also be looking to play the tight end Sternberger. So we've seen Sternberger have 2 games where he did quite well with Adrian Martinez at the helm. So week 3, 17 points, week 5, 12 points, getting targets both games. And really, he got involved week 4 too. So after the slow start to the season, they finally started getting him involved. Those would be my 2 primary stacking pieces with Martinez. I would probably, I'm not trying to guess the other guys that he's going to smash with. Maybe you play Mari Rogers. Maybe play a little bit of Williams, but I think if I'm not playing Kane or Sternberger, I'll just run him naked and, play some other games like the St. Louis game. Now, Hall has been targeted every week. And when I have a team that's going against a team like St. Louis, and I know they're going to be trailing as they were last week against Birmingham. They're going to be throwing the ball a lot. I want to target that. So Justin Hall is going to be a guy that I'm going to be looking to play. I expect him to be trailing a lot of this game and really throwing the ball. 14 targets, 6, 7. So he's been getting targets every week, and specifically in a week like last week, he's just going to be a target machine. So that's a guy I want involved. Same thing here with Arlington. Now, who's it going to be? Who's gonna get the production? Is it going to be Javonte Payton? Is it going to be Vaughns? Well, Payton had a good week last week. Vaughns has not had a good week in a couple of weeks. Not what we'd expect from him. So he's a guy I'll go back to. I expect them to be, they have a bad defense. So, they could be trailing in this one. Vaughns is a guy that I want to get exposure to just based on overall volume. So Stevenson would be just kind of a leverage play for me in Dormady lineups off of Kirkland. The floor is low, but he does have a high ceiling. So I would like him just as it really is a leverage play. Latimer, I'm not sure it's going to happen this year for Latimer. It just doesn't. He's not used in the offense the same way. There's too many guys there, and it's not Orlando where he's the only guy. He's going to have his boom weeks, but I'm keeping exposure low, so because it's been very difficult to project when those weeks are going to be. A couple guys I just want to target here and then kind of finish this out. I like Kelvin Harmon. He's been more and more involved in the offense. 3 weeks of 6 targets, back-to-back weeks of touchdowns. He's become DC, Tiamu's safety blanket. So I like him in this matchup going against San Antonio, where I expect them to be trailing. Marcus Sims, like I said, he burned us last week, but I think stud coming off a dud. I can see him coming back. He dropped a touchdown, and it was a great defensive play as well, and it was a tough catch, but he almost had it. I could go back to him this week against Michigan or against Arlington. You have to have some exposure. I could definitely see him breaking the slates. And then, yes, if you're looking, you got to find some cheap guys. Mariner was more involved last week, so that's another guy I would like. He got 6 targets last week. I'll definitely have some of him going against Arlington. And then Roland, he's a guy that we know what he's capable of. He could definitely get in the end zone. Didn't last week, but still seeing regular targets at 4,500 guys. 4,500, you need some of those guys. Kind of last for me, couple matchups that stand out. We got the Stallions as big favorites. We got the Battlehawks as big favorites. Michigan, definitely like them against Arlington. I like San Antonio against DC. And then, defense is high variance, so definitely get some exposure to some of these guys just because you never know. So let's do Hall. Let's do Pearson. All right, we got guys. I think I made this lineup too expensive as I finish this out. Yeah, we could do that. Let's say we ran Martinez naked, or we went with Sternberger. I could see punting in Arlington, and then we go 5,300. What can we get for 5,300? Amari Rogers. Okay, so that is a stack that works with Adrian Martinez. So, yeah, I probably don't want to do a double stack, though. So, let's do Kiki Chisholm, who has gotten a lot of targets recently, 9 and 6 back-to-back weeks. So that would be a guy I would go with specifically because kind of the same thing. They're going to be throwing a lot in that game as they're trailing. So, but we would probably get off of Justin Hall there because we don't want 2 Houston guys. And we got 7,900. So what we can do is 7,900. We could do Vaughn's, for example. And maybe we go to DC, Renegades. Yeah, I'd probably just... I mean, I think he could do DC. Doesn't correlate very well with Lovett, but on a 4-game slate, we don't really worry about that. Running back against defense, things happen. And Dormady, he threw 3 picks last week, so could definitely see playing that lineup. Martinez, Sternberger stack with Lovett, Vaughn's, Pearson, Kiki Chisholm, and DC. Just a decent first look. I think that's going to wrap it up. As always, thank you for joining me. We will see you next week. Let's win some money.
Thanks for watching. Be sure to smash that like button and subscribe. You know you don't want to miss what's coming next. We really appreciate it. And we'll catch you